Country music in the 1970s had a reputation for being wholesome. Church on Sunday, Mama and Apple Pie, America and the Flag.
On me to lend a helping hand.
And underneath all of that, hidden in plain sight on family radio stations across the country, were songs about affairs, desire, birth control, one-night stands, and things that would make your grandmother put down her sweet tea if she ever stopped humming along long enough to actually listen to the words.
Everybody knows that you've loved once. They think you.
These are 12 famous country songs from the 1970s that people sang along to for decades without realizing what they were actually singing about. Every single one of them was a hit. Every single one of them was filthy.
And it would be good, and it will if you rated X.
Number 12. Plastic Saddle. Jerry Reed, 1970.
Everybody!
Jerry Reed was one of the most gifted guitarists Nashville ever produced. Chet Atkins, himself widely regarded as one of the finest guitarists in American music history, once described Reed as the most brilliant guitar player he had ever heard, which is an astonishing statement from a man who had worked with virtually every major guitarist of the 20th century. Reed's technique was so original and so complex that session musicians who had spent careers in Nashville studios said they could not replicate what he was doing, even after slowing his recordings down note by note. In 1970, he recorded a cover of a 1968 Nat Stuckey song called Plastic Saddle, and his version became the most talked about recording of the two.
Don't give me no plastic saddle. I like to feel the leather.
The song is ostensibly about a cowboy's preference for leather over plastic when it comes to his saddle. He likes to feel the leather when he rides. He does not want anything artificial between him and the experience. He is very specific and very emphatic about this preference. The leather has to be real. The ride has to be genuine. He will not accept a substitute. The guitar playing behind the lyric is characteristically brilliant. Reed's fingers doing things that other session musicians had stopped even trying to replicate. And the delivery is straight-faced enough that anyone not paying close attention would come away thinking they had just heard a very sincere song about ranch equipment.
I can tell a fast train by the way she blows. Don't give me no plastic saddle.
Anyone paying close attention would know exactly what they had just heard. The comment sections on every video of this song that has ever been posted online are, uniformly, people losing their minds over what they are only now understanding. Reed never explained it. He never needed to. The guitar said everything.
Give me some plastic.
Number 11. Help Me Make It Through the Night. Kristofferson, 1970.
Take the ribbon from your
Kristofferson was a Rhodes Scholar, a former Army Ranger, and a helicopter pilot who had given up a promising military career and a teaching position at West Point to mop floors at Columbia Recording Studios in Nashville in the hope that someone would hear his songs. He wrote Help Me Make It Through the Night in 1969 while staying as a house guest with Dottie West, a starving songwriter sleeping on the couch of a fellow country music professional, drawing inspiration from a 1966 Esquire interview with Frank Sinatra, who had said, "I believe in whatever gets you through the night." Kristofferson took that sentence and turned it into a song. He slipped a demo tape to Johnny Cash. Sammy Smith recorded it in 1970. It reached number 1 on the country chart and number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100, and won the Grammy Award for Best Country Song at the 1972 ceremony.
help me make it.
The song is a direct, unambiguous proposition. A man looks at a woman and says, "Take the ribbon from your hair, lay down beside me, help me make it through the night." He is not asking about her feelings or her long-term availability. He is asking about tonight, specifically and only. He acknowledges that it is wrong to want tomorrow from whatever this is. He knows what it is. He simply does not want to be alone in the dark. The production surrounding Sammy Smith's vocal was gentle and plaintive enough that radio programmers apparently processed it as a loneliness song rather than what it actually was, which is a one-night stand request delivered with the directness of someone who had spent years writing exactly what he meant.
I don't try to understand.
The song has been covered more than 500 times. Gladys Knight and the Pips reached number 33 on the pop chart with their version in 1972. Elvis Presley recorded it. Frank Sinatra recorded it, the man whose quote had inspired it in the first place. The Rhodes Scholar mopping floors at Columbia became one of the most important songwriters of his generation on the strength of a proposition inspired by a magazine interview. The proposition was not subtle. Nobody who heard it covered their ears.
And it's bad to be alone.
Number 10. Would You Lay With Me? Tanya Tucker, 1973.
Would you lay with me in
David Allan Coe wrote Would You Lay With Me in a Field of Stone in 1973 as a meditation on unconditional love, the idea of loving someone through every possible hardship, including dying. The lyrics include lines about whether she would lay with him in a field of stone and whether she would need him when the hard times come. The song is romantic in the way that very old ballads are romantic, elemental and slightly morbid, more about survival than sweetness.
would you lay
Then Billy Sherrill produced it for a 15-year-old named Tanya Tucker, and everything about the song shifted. Tucker's voice at 15 had an adult quality that her age did not prepare you for, raw and knowing and fully committed to whatever the lyric was asking of her. The line, "If my needs were strong, would you lay with me?" coming out of a 15-year-old on country radio in 1973, produced exactly the reaction you would expect from country radio programmers in 1973, which was a combination of discomfort and the commercial calculation that the discomfort was not sufficient reason to stop playing a hit record. It reached number 1 on the country chart.
grow dry? Would you wet them?
Coe later said he had not written the song with any suggestive intent, that it was genuinely about love under extreme circumstances. What the song sounded like when a teenage girl sang it on national radio was a separate matter from what it had been written to mean. Tucker later said the song represented something specific about her early career, the industry's habit of putting adult material in front of teenage performers and letting the audience sort out how they felt about it. The audience sorted it out by buying the record.
Needs were strong. Would you lay?
Number 9. You've Never Been This Far Before. Conway Twitty, 1973.
I can almost hear the stillness.
Conway Twitty was 39 years old when he recorded You've Never Been This Far Before at Bradley's Barn in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, on April 4th, 1973. The song is about a man guiding a woman through her first intimate experience, the trembling fingers touching forbidden places, the taste of tender kisses, the explicit acknowledgement that she has never been this far before. Twitty wrote it himself and delivered it in the intimate confessional whisper that was his signature, the voice of a man sharing something in a quiet room rather than performing for an audience.
Wonder what this moment holds in store.
Radio stations did not merely stop playing it. Some of them took knives to the vinyl, not metaphorically. Actual knives, carving into the grooves of the record so the needle could not follow the track and the song could not be played. Station programmers reportedly stood over turntables, destroying copies of the record to ensure their transmitters would never broadcast it. They thought they were protecting their listeners. What they were actually doing was making the song the most talked about record in country music. Every destroyed copy was a story. Every banned station was an advertisement. Jukeboxes across the South could not keep up with requests.
I don't know and I don't care what made you.
It reached number 1 on the country chart and stayed there for 3 weeks. It crossed over to the pop chart at number 22. Twitty never changed a word of it for the next 20 years of performing it live. He said later that you cannot take passion out of country music. If you did, it would not be country music. The men who carved grooves into his vinyl to silence the song gave him the best promotion he never paid for. The song that some radio programmers tried to physically destroy became one of the defining recordings of his career.
Far before.
Number 8. Behind Closed Doors. Charlie Rich, 1973.
My baby makes me proud, Lord.
Charlie Rich was 40 years old when he recorded Behind Closed Doors at Columbia Recording Studios in Nashville on November 28, 1972. Though his silver hair and weathered presence made him look considerably older, which is how he earned the nickname the Silver Fox. He had spent 20 years in the music business, recording rockabilly for Sun Records in the late 1950s, writing songs for other artists, recording jazz and pop and country albums that sold modestly and then disappeared. He had been passed over, overlooked, and written off so many times that the industry had essentially stopped paying attention to him. Then producer Billy Sherrill matched him with Behind Closed Doors, written by Kenny Odell, and the combination of Rich's smooth, silver-haired baritone and a lyric about what his woman does to him when nobody else is around produced the #1 country single of 1973.
Baby to me.
The song's title is its entire argument. Behind closed doors. That is where the interesting things happen. Out in public, she is proper and demure. She calls him honey when her friends are around and acts perfectly presentable. But behind closed doors, she does things to him that he is not going to describe in any further detail. He is simply going to report that he is a very fortunate man and that the doors are staying closed. The CMA named it Single of the Year in 1973. It won the Grammy Award for Best Male Country Vocal Performance. It reached number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100. The entire song is a smirk in musical form. The knowing suggestion that the most interesting information is precisely the information being withheld. Rich accepted the CMA Entertainer of the Year award the following year, and the year after presented it to John Denver, at which point he took a lighter to the envelope with Denver's name on it. Some people said he was drunk. Some said he was making a statement about what counted as country music. He never gave a clear explanation. The man who spent 20 years being overlooked ended up with both the hit and the moment nobody could stop talking about.
I want you.
Number 7. Midnight Oil. Barbara Mandrell, 1973.
That call was from the office, and I guess
Barbara Mandrell was 24 years old and had been a professional musician since childhood when she recorded Midnight Oil for Columbia Records in 1973. She had been a steel guitar prodigy who performed on the Opry stage as a child, toured with Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard as a teenager, and was widely regarded as one of the most technically accomplished musicians in Nashville before she had a single hit record. The Midnight Oil was the song that changed that. It reached number 7 on the Billboard Country chart and was described at the time as one of the first cheating songs ever performed by a woman, which understates considerably what the song was actually doing.
my makeup, I'm putting on the one that
The narrator is burning the midnight oil. Working late, she explains to her husband. She will be home eventually. She is just very busy right now. She is not in fact working. She is conducting a torrid workplace affair and has constructed an elaborate cover story that requires her to come home late, smelling of whatever the midnight oil smells like, and face her husband with the evidence of the evening still on her. The song's genius is that it presents the narrator sympathetically. There is no judgment in Mandrell's delivery, no indication that the listener should disapprove of what is happening. The woman is simply living a complicated life, and the song is describing it without editorial comment. A critic writing for the Music Weird blog described it perfectly. The narrator is not only working late instead of running home to her husband, she is actually lying about working late to continue a torrid workplace affair. Mandrell's gentle, almost folksy delivery makes the whole thing sound like a folk song about dedication to one's professional responsibilities. It is not. It is a song about having an affair that went to number 7 on the country chart in 1973, while sounding like something you could play at a church social.
lend a helping hand.
6 songs down, 6 to go, and the back half of this list has the ones that somehow ended up on family radio while making grown adults raise their eyebrows. Before we continue, if you have not subscribed yet, do it now and hit the bell. This channel covers classic country history every week, and you will not hear about it any other way. 6 left. Let's finish this. Number 6. Rated X. Loretta Lynn, 1972.
Well, if you've been a married woman and
Loretta Lynn recorded Rated X in 1972, and country radio banned it almost immediately, which had become a reliable pattern for her by that point. She had already been banned for Don't Come Home a-Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind, for You Ain't Woman Enough, and would soon be banned for The Pill. The bans had not slowed her down. They had made her more famous. By 1972, Being banned by country radio was beginning to look like part of her marketing strategy, whether it was intended as one or not.
Ain't have a male friend when you're a has-been or a woman.
Rated X is about what happens to a divorced woman in 1972 America. She is, the song explains, automatically considered fast and loose by everyone around her. Other women watch their husbands more carefully when she enters a room. Men assume she is available. Her divorce is treated as a permanent statement about her character, rather than a circumstance of her life. Lynn delivers the lyric with a controlled fury that sits just underneath the melody, present enough that anyone listening closely can feel it, but contained enough that it sounds like a country song rather than a manifesto. The song was progressive when it was released, and sounds remarkably current now.
Lead up for sin. The women all look at
She never stopped singing it. It appeared on her live sets for decades and became one of the songs associated with her legacy as a voice for women in country music who were willing to say things that the format officially discouraged. The women who were buying country records in 1972 knew exactly what the song was about. They were the ones it was written for. Country radio said no to it. They bought it anyway.
you like you're bad. The men all hope you are.
Number 5. The Pill, Loretta Lynn, 1975.
You whine me and dine me when
The Pill was recorded in 1972, but Decca Records sat on it for 3 years before releasing it in 1975, apparently hoping that the social climate would either become more hospitable to a song about birth control or that the conversation would go away entirely. The conversation did not go away. The song was released in January 1975 and banned by over 60 country radio stations within weeks of its release. It reached number 5 on the Billboard country chart anyway, which required the other stations to play it enough times to compensate for the ones that would not touch it.
another baby's come, there's a gonna
The song is about a woman who has spent her marriage pregnant, hatching one after another, as she puts it, while her husband roamed freely. Now she has access to the birth control pill, and the rooster's time has come. The feeling good comes easy now, she sings, because she has got the pill. Country Music, the Rough Guide, noted that Lynn managed to include country music's first, and at the time only reference, to the female orgasm in a mainstream country song, disguised within that particular line about feeling good coming easily. The banning stations had apparently not read the lyrics carefully enough to catch it.
hands play while holding a couple in my
Lynn was 43 years old when it was released. She had been performing since her teens, had been married at 13, had 6 children, and had written the song from a position of direct personal experience with everything it described. She has said in interviews that she wrote it because the women she knew needed a song that said out loud what they were all thinking privately. More than 50 years later, it is still the most radical thing country radio ever accidentally played.
this incubator is over.
Number 4. Love in the Hot Afternoon, Gene Watson, 1975.
From somewhere outside, I hear the street.
Gene Watson was a body shop worker from Paris, Texas, who had been playing honky-tonks on weekends for years when Capitol Records signed him in 1974, and he recorded Love in the Hot Afternoon. The song was written by Vince Matthews and Kent Westbury and reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart in 1975, his first top 10 hit and the beginning of a career that would produce 48 charting singles over 2 decades.
Street vendor cried, Philly gumbo.
The song describes a man in New Orleans, walking the city, taking in the heat and the bourbon and the particular atmosphere of a sultry southern afternoon, before returning to a hotel room with a woman he describes as a Bourbon Street lady, new to him and full of mystery. Everything about the setting is selected to evoke a specific kind of encounter. The heat, the slow pace of the afternoon, the anonymity of the hotel room above the busy street, the woman who is described purely in terms of her mystery and her newness. A critic writing about the song noted the languid, heavy heat that permeates the scene and how it mirrors the intensity of their brief, passionate encounter, an affair hidden away from the prying eyes of the outside world.
Just a guy in the room.
The song sounds like a travel postcard from New Orleans. The imagery is evocative and poetic. The Bourbon Street Lady is never described in any explicit terms. The afternoon is hot and slow, and the encounter is brief. Watson's smooth Texas baritone delivers all of it with a relaxed authority that makes the whole thing sound like a reminiscence rather than a confession. It played on country radio in 1975 between songs about trucks and lost dogs, and nobody reached for the dial. That is either a testament to the power of good production or evidence that country radio programmers were not always paying close attention to what they were broadcasting. Number 3. I See the Want To in Your Eyes. Conway Twitty, 1974.
I see the sparkling little.
Conway Twitty recorded I See the Want To in Your Eyes in May 1974 at Bradley's Barn, the same studio where he had made You've Never Been This Far Before the previous year. And this time, country radio decided not to destroy the vinyl. The song reached #1 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart and stayed there, becoming his 16th #1. The title tells you everything you need to know about the content.
How many men like me?
The song is about a man looking at a woman and seeing desire in her eyes. Desire that she is not acting on. Desire that exists between them and has not been spoken about. Desire that he is acknowledging quietly and directly. He sees the want to. She has it. He sees it. What happens next is left to the imagination, because Twitty understood that the imagination of a willing listener was more powerful than anything he could describe explicitly. The restraint in the lyric is the craft. He never says anything that a radio programmer could point to as objectionable. He simply describes seeing something in a woman's eyes and lets everyone in the room understand what he means.
Deep in your smile, there's a.
Twitty had developed this technique across his entire career, the ability to convey the maximum amount of meaning with the minimum number of words that could be called inappropriate. He was the undisputed master of the country music double entendre, not the obvious winking kind that announces itself, but the kind that sounds like a love song until you think about it for 30 seconds. He died in June 1993 after suffering a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm while touring near Branson, Missouri. He had 41 #1 country hits. Several of them required radio stations to think about them for 30 seconds. Number 2. I Can't Believe She Gives It All to Me. Conway Twitty, 1976.
I pinch myself when I.
By 1976, Conway Twitty had been smuggling content past country radio censors for 3 years and had developed what could fairly be described as a system. The system was write or choose a song with a title, so self-explanatory that the double meaning was entirely apparent to anyone over the age of 15. Record it with the most innocent possible musical arrangement, deliver it in the most sincere possible vocal manner, and wait for the #1 to arrive. I Can't Believe She Gives It All to Me was released in November 1976 and reached #1 in January 1977 after 12 weeks on the chart. The title is, again, the entire content of the song. He cannot believe she gives it all to him. Everything she has, all of it. He is a fortunate man and he knows it, and he wants to make sure the listener understands the depth of his gratitude for the completeness of what is being given. The song is performed with the hushed reverence of a man who has received something extraordinary and is trying to find the words to express how extraordinary it is. The words he finds are that he cannot believe she gives it all to him. He says this multiple times. He is very grateful.
Can't believe she gives it all.
It was his 18th #1. It spent 1 week at the top and 12 weeks on the chart in total. It was produced by Owen Bradley at Bradley's Barn, the same facility where most of Twitty's 1970s recordings were made, which means that at some point during the production of this record, everyone in the room agreed that this was a perfectly appropriate country song for family radio. They were right that it was appropriate. They were aware of what it meant. Conway Twitty had 41 #1s. He earned every one of them the hard way, one perfectly constructed plausible deniability at a time.
Lips that warm.
Number 1. Divers Do It Deeper. David Allan Coe, 1978. Coe had spent time in Ohio correctional facilities before he showed up in Nashville in the late 1960s, living in a hearse parked outside the Ryman Auditorium and knocking on the back doors of publishing companies until someone listened to his songs. He was not the kind of artist country music was designed to accommodate, and he spent his career testing exactly how far the format could be pushed before it pushed back. The answer was further than most people expected. Divers Do It Deeper was released in 1978 and is presented as a celebration of the specific virtues of scuba divers and deep-sea diving as a recreational pursuit. The song praises divers for their ability to stay in the saddle just a little bit longer than other men. Cowboys, it is noted, have a reputation in this area, but divers are better. The diving metaphor is sustained across the entire song, with the earnest commitment of someone who genuinely wants the listener to understand the comparative advantages of the diving community over other groups of outdoor enthusiasts. The comparative advantages being referenced are not about scuba equipment. Coe delivered the entire thing with a straight face and a voice that had spent too many years in too many correctional facilities to be embarrassed by anything. It was a minor hit, not the kind of number that shows up in retrospectives about the great records of 1978. But it has never stopped being played at parties where someone eventually says they have a song everyone needs to hear. That is its legacy. David Allan Coe, who wrote A Boy Named Sue for Johnny Cash and Would You Lay With Me for Tanya Tucker, closed out the decade with a scuba diving song that was not about scuba diving. Country music in the 1970s was not what it appeared to be. Divers Do It Deeper is the